Our experience in libraries with teaching information literacy to students tells us that their experiences with research are often fragmented. And as a result, many students don't develop a deep understanding of how research and scholarship work. Instead, they rely on familiar resources and don't acquire important ways of thinking about information, such as the need to start with a good research question, or the ability to place a particular source they found in a particular context, or the ability to evaluate what kind of authority a writer, blogger, researcher, or organization might carry. These are challenging core ideas that students must develop as they progress through their undergraduate years if they are to be successful in their majors, their future careers, or as community members. We in the libraries have identified 6 big ideas to help students become more successful in the world of scholarship and information. These concepts are the underpinnings for critical thinking about information and sources, whether students are writing a research paper, creating a montage of images collected from diverse sources, critiquing peers in a poster session, or evaluating the record of a local nonprofit organization. Here are the 6 big ideas along with a brief definition of each. Authority is constructed and contextual. This means that credibility and expertise are subject to social and cultural influences and can be evaluated based on context of use. Information creation as a process. This means that the format and delivery of information tell us something deeper about it. Information has value. This means that information has many dimensions of value: monetary, societal, educational, and that legal and economic interests influence its production and sharing, that is, through copyright or student ownership of their own work. Research as inquiry. This means that research is an iterative and complex process that may lead to new questions or lines of research. Scholarship as conversation. This refers to the idea of scholarly influence and connections that scholars and researchers have among themselves. Searching as strategic exploration. This means that searching is often non-linear and iterative, requiring source evaluation and changes in search strategies as research proceeds. These big ideas can help you frame course goals, assignments, and instruction in a flexible but powerful way to address common gaps in student understanding. Let's take an example. Maybe you've noticed that the students in your course readily grasped what is meant by peer review when you ask them to identify peer-reviewed articles on a topic of their choice. However, you've discovered that when they find articles written by scholars that disagree, they don't know how to reconcile contrasting research findings. After all, the researchers who've written these articles are all experts. How can you provide pedagogical support for enriching student understanding of scholarly debate? Perhaps you could develop one or more assignments around the big ideas of scholarship as conversation and authority is constructed and contextual. Working through your course goals, assignments, and instructional experiences using the backwards design model you've seen throughout this course, you might start by developing learning outcomes that address the need for placing individual articles and books within a larger flow of scholarly influence. You could address these outcomes with your assignment and assessment methods, such as rubrics for annotated bibliographies, or paper requirements that emphasize using scholarly works in an appropriate context by recognizing counter-arguments or competing explanations. Then you could plan learning experiences to appropriately address your specific learning outcomes and assessments. Maybe this involves assigning readings of conflicting articles to discuss as a group, comparing research methods or intellectual traditions. By intentionally designing instruction to address gaps in your students' knowledge and by connecting their learning to some of the big ideas, you are helping students develop critical thinking skills for finding and analyzing sources. They'll also gain a stronger conceptual foundation to maneuver within the landscapes of scholarship and research. These big ideas can also help you simplify your instructional planning by linking information you want students to learn to concepts that are enduring and cohesive for you and your faculty colleagues. As you consider your course design, consult your subject librarian to discuss gaps in your students' understanding. Together, you can design an assignment, a series of assignments, or a research experience to address those gaps. A link to the list of subject librarians is included in the Further Resources section of this course. In the next video, you'll see some real-life examples of course goals that reflect the 6 big ideas in information literacy.